Before you formed a single opinion, the world had already been forming you. Every belief you hold about family, about work, about what a good life looks like, arrived before you had any say in the matter. You were handed a set of lenses and told, without words, that this is simply how things are. And you believed it, not because you were naive, because that is how culture works on all of us. Culture is not something you join, it is something you are born into. It shapes the questions you think to ask, and more quietly, the ones that never occur to you at all. It tells you what is worth wanting, what is worth fearing, who deserves your respect, what counts as success. These are not small suggestions. They are the framework of your inner life, built before you had any tools to evaluate what you were being given. Think about the things you assume without examining them. That busyness signals worth. That disagreement means disrespect. That emotions should be managed before they are expressed. These ideas did not emerge from your personal reasoning. They came from the people who raised you, who themselves received them from the people who raised them. You are, in this sense, a carrier of something older than yourself. There is a strange intimacy to this. The voices in your head are often not entirely your own. The standards you measure yourself against were written by hands you never shook. The shame you feel in certain moments was seeded by people who felt the same shame and never questioned it either. It moves through time like a quiet inheritance, passed forward without signatures or paperwork. And yet, this is not a tragedy. Culture transmits more than anxieties and outdated assumptions. It also carries genuine wisdom, practices that protect communities, ways of relating to grief, to celebration, to the natural world that took generations to develop and carry real worth. The question is not whether culture is good or bad. It is whether you are awake inside it or simply carried by it. Some things your culture gave you are worth keeping. Perhaps it taught you that gathering at a table matters, that honoring the elderly is meaningful, that certain responsibilities toward others cannot be negotiated away. These are inheritances that still work, values tested across time that hold up when you examine them honestly. Not because tradition is automatically wise, but because some things, when you look at them clearly, remain true. But other things do not hold up, not because they were malicious in origin, but because the world they were designed for no longer exists. Beliefs about who is allowed to contribute to a conversation, assumptions about which kinds of work carry dignity, expectations placed on people based on how they were born rather than who they are. These were solutions to conditions that have changed, and carrying them forward is not loyalty to something real. It is loyalty to a ghost. The difficult part is that you cannot always feel the difference from the inside. Something outdated can feel exactly as certain and self-evident as something true. That is what makes this work uncomfortable. You cannot simply trust your convictions to tell you which ones deserve examination. Conviction is not evidence of accuracy. People have held convictions with tremendous force about things that later generations look back on with bewilderment. So what do you actually do with this? You begin by noticing which of your beliefs you have actually chosen and which you have simply never questioned. This is not a one-time exercise. It is an ongoing practice of paying close attention to the moments when you feel certain, when you feel that particular kind of rightness that comes from a belief being deeply familiar. Familiarity is not the same as truth, but it feels indistinguishable from it until you learn to slow down enough to tell them apart. You also begin to notice what you feel when a belief is challenged. If a long-held idea about how people should live or what matters in a life becomes uncomfortable to question, that discomfort is information. It does not mean the belief is wrong, but it suggests the belief is one you did not freely choose. The ones you chose through reflection tend to feel different under pressure. They are firmer in a quieter way. Letting go of an inherited belief does not mean abandoning the community that gave it to you. It does not mean deciding your culture was simply a mistake or that the people who shaped you were foolish. It means being honest about the difference between what served them in their time and what serves you in yours. You can carry deep respect for where you came from while still being willing to travel further than they could see. There is a kind of courage required for this that rarely gets acknowledged, because the beliefs we inherit are usually held by the people we love. Questioning them can feel like criticism, like distance, like ingratitude. But continuing to hold something you have examined and found untrue is not loyalty. It is a different kind of leaving, one that happens while staying perfectly still. What you believe shapes what you notice, what you pursue, what kind of life you build. Most people spend their entire lives inside a set of assumptions they were handed before they could evaluate them. That is not something to feel ashamed of. It is simply what it means to be human and raised by other humans. But you are not required to stay exactly where your inheritance placed you. You can look at what you were given with honesty and care. You can keep what holds up and release what no longer does. You can take the real wisdom embedded in your culture and carry it forward without also carrying forward everything attached to it. The beliefs that shaped you were not chosen by you, but the ones you hold from here can be.